Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in for my next video, and for today's episode what I'm going to do is show you how I have made my own planner. I couldn't find anything on the market that suited my needs and my requirements, so with the crafting brain that I've got, I have created my own. So I am going to get straight on and show you how I've done it. So this is my rough sketch of how I want things in the planner, and I've marked the measurements of each thing because when I go into Word and I create the document, I can actually take those measurements and take them over into Word because it does do it millimetre by millimetre. So here's my first printout, and as you can see we're missing the top line, so the margins were too tight, so I'm going to have to adjust that, and then on the back side I'm missing the top line and the side. This is my second printout and it's now all centered. I've got all the lines where I need them. The only thing I'm not liking is the lines that I put in for writing are too dark. I just want them fainter than that. So I'm going to go back to the computer and just adjust them slightly. So let's do that now. this is my final page, and I'm very happy with this. The lines are much fainter. It gives me opportunity just to move things around, and I don't have to be restricted to the lines, and I can just scribble notes wherever I want them. So that's Monday to Wednesday, and then we've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So now I'm ready to print off. I think I'm going to do 60 copies just so that I've got spare, and then I can go from January into January next year. Here are my 60 sheets that are ready to go into the planner. The only one thing I did change is I added a box on Monday for week commencing, because they aren't date specific sheets, just because it makes it easier to print them out, and then I can use these year on year. I just would like to know which week I'm starting, so I added a little box for that. In the planner that I kind of made but never really finished from this year, I had made some sheets that I'm going to transfer into this year's planner, and those sheets consist of a food diary. I never really used them, but because I want to get on top of my health, I want to have this as a forefront in my next planner, so I'm going to make that a section and take these across. The other things that I made were these like brainstorming sheets. So they're like a spider diagram, and they're for brainstorming, and I found them very useful at times. I also created template sheets for some lined paper, for some squared paper, and for some smaller squares, and I'm gonna print some of those off and probably add some plain paper as well, just so that I've got a notes section and an ideas section at the back of this planner as well, because it's always handy to have. Something else I want to combine into it, and I'll have another section at the back of it, or possibly in the front, is my cash book, because I would go from my cash book to my planner, and it would just be nice that I've got it all in one thing. So there are enough blank sheets in this book that I can tear out, and they're A5 as well, and they come out very easily, and I will add those for the next year into this planner. Other things I'm going to add are my month tabs. These aren't all the same. I had to create a few extra ones out of scrap bits of paper, so I'm actually going to create whole new ones for the new planner and probably make them a little bit sturdier than this. The other thing I want to add is some Polly Pockets. I've got some A5 Polly Pockets, and I'm going to cut the bind off so that it just goes through, so that I can have the odd Polly Pocket scattered throughout the planner, so that I've got somewhere to keep all my receipts and little bits of paper that just fly around. That all being said, I need to get on and create the cover. I have 2 pieces of card, and what I've done is I've cut them to fit the piece of paper, and I want it to overhang the front by 1 centimetre and the top and the bottom, or the top and the bottom, by 1/2 centimetre. So I've made it 1/2 centimetre bigger than A5 paper all the way round, and I've cut 2 pieces of it. Now, I don't want the cover to be plain, and a couple of months ago we replaced the blinds in our conservatory, and these are the offcuts, and I don't know why, but I quite like the texture and the colour, and I think it's going to make a nice sturdy cover for the front and the back of this planner. So I've got 4 pieces of it, 2 larger pieces to wrap around and be the front and the back, and then once it's wrapped around and glued, I will then use these 2 pieces to cover the insides. And I also have some bookbinding tape just to cover the seams if I feel that makes it a little bit neater. So I'm going to get on and do that now. I've now got my front and back covers, and although I've left the inside cover as a raw edge, because it's plastic backed and because this glue was so sticky, I think I'm going to leave it. If in the future it starts to fray, then I will put a layer of this tape around the inside, but I just quite like it slightly plain as it is for the moment. Now that I've got my front and back covers and the main insides for the planner, I'm just going to print off all the extra bits and make my dividers, and then we can get to binding it. I've now got all the parts I need for my planner. I've got the front and back covers, I've got the main bulk, which is the diary part of it and the planning part of it, I've got my cash book, I've got my food diary, and then I've got some notes papers, and I've got my dividers. So now I'm going to go and bind it. And here I have my completed planner. So it's got its front and back covers, it's spiral bound, I've got it in the order that I want it in the months, and I've got the notes at the back. Now there are a couple of changes that were made, and that is because the binding that I had is only 1 inch wide, and I need to find some thicker binding. I know I can get it, it's just whether I can get it at an affordable price. So temporarily this is just the planner and some notes in the back. What I would like to add to it at some point is the cash book part of it. That made it too thick. And I've got some of the food diary isn't in there at the moment. So either I end up swapping some of that out as I go, or I find thicker binding and I can incorporate all of it, which would be nice. Now there's a couple of other things that I want to do. I want to label each of the dividers into their relevant months. So I'm going to create some labels on my Dymo label maker, and I'll do that now. Here I have my labels, and I'm just going to cut them up to fit onto each of the divider tabs. And we're done. I hope you found that interesting and not too full on and intense, but I have enjoyed making it, and I just wanted to share the trials of it with you because it didn't turn out exactly how I'd expected. Because of the limitations of the binding, I've not been able to put all the pages in it that I want, but hopefully I will be able to do it in the future. As I said in this video, I haven't included the actual binding technique because that turned out to be a whole video on its own, so I will link that in the description as soon as I've got it available, and that will be up in the next few days. Thank you all for tuning in and staying here till the last minute, and I will see you again in my next video.